to enter. For those of you on Facebook, we'll get started in just one moment. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Lend Family Education Series. Our title tonight is Promoting Self-Determination, Tips for Promoting Self-Determination at Home in Youth and Children. Our sponsor is the Kansas Lend, which stands for Leadership Education and Neurodevelopmental and Related Disabilities. It's an interdisciplinary training at the University of Kansas Medical Center.
All right, is that working?
Before we get started, I do want to share that our partners at the Kansas University Center on Developmental Disabilities is conducting a study to understand how people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families use supports to make decisions in their lives, and are holding focus groups on June 17th at 4 and 6 p.m. You will receive compensation for your time, but I will put the link to sign up in both the Facebook chat and the Zoom chat. So if you have any questions from there. Tonight's speaker is Dr. Mayumi Hagiwara. She is a sibling of a sister with intellectual disability and a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Kansas. Based on her family experience and research, she will share ways that families can promote self-determination for children with disabilities at home. And with that, take it away, Mayumi.
Okay. Hello, people. This is going to be my first time talking to a wider audience via Zoom. So I'm very excited, but if I did something wrong, then please just smile and then forget about it. So as Stephanie introduced, today's topic is about tips for promoting self-determination at home across the life course. This topic came about because as you all have children at home, since the last March, I do have a child, a 7-year-old child at home. And it has been very difficult to figure out work and life balance. There is no balance, but like, even though there is no, balance between my work and my work and then homeschooling, but I try to find a ways to promote his self-determination. So if I could share my experience as a parent and as well as a sibling tonight, it'll be really great. So our agenda quickly is that, so I'm gonna first introduce what is self-determination really, and then activities for promoting self-determination at home. So I have 5 steps that families can follow so that like systematically somewhat families can promote self-determination for any children at home. And I have some resources to share which are about self-determination. And before we're gonna go on to questions and answers, we have 3 parents and then children tonight to talk about what they do at their home to promote self-determination. So stay tuned. What is self-determination? Self-determination is about acting or causing things to happen in your life with the right amount of support from others. Sometimes people tend to misunderstand self-determination means same thing as being independent. But being independent is not the same as being self-determined, because self-determination is a characteristic that everybody has. So it's just a matter of a support and opportunities we have to express our self-determination. So being independent can be the outcome of being self-determined, meaning that like, oh, I want to live by myself. I want to live in an apartment with my roommates. I want to have a driver's license. I want to buy a car. You know, these can be the outcomes of self-determination. And I will talk a little bit more about what I will talk breakdown of a self-determination a little bit later. But so self-determination, how every one of us expresses self-determination is different, depending on culture, depending on the family style, depending on where you live, where you work, or what expectations you have. So if people might, although people are self-determined, how they show, how they engage in self-determined actions might look a little bit different by people to people, as you already, I think, witnessed. Self-determination develops across the life course, meaning from the birth till the end of the life. And of course, supports and opportunities look different depending on the age of the child or depending on the age of the person without disabilities. So I hear a lot from a lot of self-advocates and family members that it's important to start anything, everything from early. And self-determination is not exceptional either. We need to start providing opportunities at the age appropriate level. During early childhood, children engage in choice making, which is a precursor of a decision making. And then self-awareness, and also navigating different situations with the friends, with the family. And then like during adolescent, early adulthood, middle adulthood, as people age, they have a lot of different tasks, expectations that they need to navigate. But there is a little research around the later adulthood on self-determination. But just because people, as they age, they require a lot more supports, you know, people with and without disabilities, because it's expected that like people need their physical strength might decline, so they might not be able to carry stuff as much as they could when they're younger. But still, you know, their self-determination is there. So we still have to provide opportunity and supports where they want to live, how they want to retire, how they want to, you know, live the end of the life, and stuff like that. So self-determination plays a key role throughout the life course. Oh, hi, Kathy is back home. Yes. So self-determined actions. We have broke down into 3 actions to really understand what self-determination is. Decide, act, believe. So these are the key actions related to self-determination. We decide and we act on it, act on what we decide, and then based on what we see, the outcome of acting, we believe that like, oh, wow, I can do this. And maybe I can try even something different or even something more difficult. But these are cyclical process. Decide, act, believe don't stand alone. They enforce each other by people engaging all the activities, by receiving support and opportunities that are appropriate for each individual. So, however, in the environment, if there are no supports or opportunities, we cannot express the self-determination. So the quick example from my own sister is that my sister, when she was a junior high, she was in special education classroom. Although she wanted to be included in general education classroom, she needed a lot of supports to perform academics, but she didn't have appropriate supports to engage in academics. Teacher thought like, oh no, you're just gonna stay in the special education classroom. You don't get to go to general education classroom. So then, even if she expressed the want, even if she advocated for herself, but if there are no right opportunities, she wouldn't be able to act on it and then believe that she can be successful in different environments. So that's why I always talk about supports and opportunities. But let's look at the decide. Decide is to use your strength and areas of need to set goals. And also choosing goals based on your vision for the future. And sometimes we misunderstand the goals, meaning that like becoming a teacher or becoming a doctor or becoming, going to the universe in a different planet. But no, it's goals don't need to be long-term goal. It can be also short-term goals, meaning that like it can be like doing homework to get the better grades, or practicing the piano so that like you can play the piano better, or you can practice like communication so that you can have many more friends than you already have. So these goals can be a variety of things depending on each person's strengths, areas of need, and also preferences. So how can families provide supports and opportunities for child with disabilities, with and without disabilities at home? Find different options and think of pros and cons to choose the best option. Let's say, so, even snack time, I'm sure you already do this, but think about pros and cons of different snacks. Is this like right before dinner time? Then do you wait, or do you just eat some like carrots or something a little bit healthier? And so like at home, I'm sure you already do this in daily life, but like finding different options and think about pros and cons, think through the options. These are good practices for any age, And also create a plan to work toward goal. And, this it does not need to be elaborated plan. It can be just maybe helping a chores at home. A lot of people already have a a task board or something, but it could be just simply the check mark on the calendar. Hey, I did throw garbage today. But like create a plan, like talk about like how that you are working toward goal. Toward goal can be my child that did this during homeschooling, that to follow, and then if he followed the lesson for the day, then I gave him one quarter because his goal was to buy a Nintendo Switch. So I kind of bribed my child to engage in academic, but like I had to do it, I had to do something like he he would do reading and math, which not I'm sure it was kind of torturing for him. But like talk about very easy, simple plan that can be manageable for the family. And talk about ways to overcome barrier as your child works toward a goal. So like talking about my child's goal, listening and following directions. One day we realized that like even if he was following the directions, but he sometimes forgot to check on the calendar. That was his plan. So like we really like set the time to see if we decided to look at the calendar every before he went to bed, so that we can make sure that like if he checked or not, or if he was working toward a goal. And think about steps your child needs to take, like goals, even if it's a simple goal, even if it's a short-term goal, but like steps how to get to the goal. Talk about it and then involve the child, get the child's input as much as you can. I think that's the important. And I'm sure you already do that every day. But these are the kind of things like how we can do with the children at home. And act. So that's the second action of self-determination. Act on what you decide to do. So working toward your goal and solve problems as you move towards your goals, because there are just so many unexpected barriers show up. But like how we can provide opportunities and supports for your child to navigate these barriers that they did not expect. These are good skills and abilities, no matter where they are. General education classroom, at the elementary school, junior high, middle school, high school, or even at the work setting or higher education setting. These are the essential skills that get them very far. So it's good to start early, and even if your children is already at high school, it's okay to start now. So thinking about different pathways, it's kind of difficult term, but different ways, different options to get around the barriers. Sometimes like kids just getting stuck with like, hey, I have a problem and I don't know what to do, and then just go right away ask a teacher or parent, and then especially parents and the kids at home and doing this during this pandemic, parents are doing something else, then we need them to just at least think about one solution, one option that they can do without asking parents right away. But then like we still need to give the opportunities, we still need to grab every time that child gets encounters a barrier, teachable moment, that like given the pros and cons, think through options, so that like hopefully they will build skills and experiences to generalize their abilities to get away the obstacles or barriers that they encounter. I think I kind of mentioned already, but important thing here for the act is to monitor, and I already a little bit mentioned earlier too, but how we monitor, or how child can monitor themselves. I think this is important to feel successful. And then self-determination, when we talk about self-determination, outcomes are goals, achieving goals or reaching goals is not actually end goal. End goal is for children, for us to learn the process of navigating through the barriers, like setting a goals, um, and thinking through options, thinking through pros and cons. These are more variables than actually reaching a goal. It's great if you get to reach the goal, but that's not all about it. It's the process of working toward the goal is more valuable when the children age and then they encounter different experiences in different environments. And then also, we want children to be able to advocate for their own supports and opportunities. I'm not sure if, audience people that like, if children are already involved in IEP meetings and whatnot, but, that's kind of very obvious way for children to feel empowered to share their goals, uh, their vision for future, and then there's strength, and then their goals, like a lot of stuff. But it could be depend, but also like IEP if that school starts in a normal way, yes. But like at home, like we can give them opportunities um, to ask for. For them to advocate for their support and opportunities, or how they're feeling about everyday life, how they're navigating and this emotional ups and downs that like being cooped up inside. I think talking, having a conversation time might be essential for them, for children with disabilities, especially to advocate for their support and opportunities. And believe. So when we know from based on the research, the belief comes kind of, even if students are good at setting goals, but sometimes they're not very good at believing and feeling empowered that they can reach a goal or even work towards a goal. So this comes with the experience of working toward the goal and feeling supported by family members and teachers and other people in the community. But so I will show you later the self-determination assessment that you can take for free. But it's kind of interesting that I believe status is a little bit lower for youngsters because I think it plays a role that like experience and opportunities, how much they have access to opportunities and experience kind of plays into a role of believing that they can do what they want to do. But yeah, that kind of triggered me to make sure that some, when I work with the family members to promote self-determination, some family members say like, oh, you just let your kids do whatever they want to do. And I said, no, nobody does whatever we want to do, because we live in a society that like we have a lot of expectations and rules. So obviously, no, we're not gonna let, just because of one person says like, I want to climb Mount Everest, like, okay, but what do we need in order to climb Mount Everest? Like, can you just go next day and then fly to Nepal? No, you need a passport, you need equipment, you need money, you need like, a lot of stuff. So actually, we don't, the goal, anybody can have any goals, but how to get there, like we have a lot of, what do you say, navigating through, again, options, then we know like what it's feasible, what's, what's actually practical in that moment. So self-determination is not something that like you just let your kids do what they want to do. But so this is sometimes like struggle with my mom about my sister with intellectual disability, that uh, my mom loves my sister, and my mom knows that my sister can do a lot of things, but it's sometimes a struggle to believe that like, for my mom, uh, that my sister can reach her dream, or even she has a dream. um, my sister, after graduating from high school, they live in Japan. uh, my sister, my family was presented three options for the career, no, the pathways after high school: sheltered workshop A, sheltered workshop B, and sheltered workshop C. So it was difficult for my sister. She loves people. She wanted to work at the cake shop that like she can just smell the sweetness every day and talk to people, and she loves to serve other people too. But then when you have three options of sheltered workshop, um, it is systematic barriers so big that like one person with intellectual disability is kind of hard to overcome. But I think families, we still need to believe that everybody can reach their goals, their dream and their vision for future. So my when I was back in like so many years ago, when I was still a graduate student in Illinois, I wanted to invite my sister because there was a park and rec, summer camp that was for people in any age, actually teenager till like 60s. They had a summer camp for people with disabilities, and we don't have stuff like that in Japan. So I asked my sister to come. Um, and I think she was like 17 or 18 years old. And then my mom went to ask permission from school, because Japanese calendar goes till the end of July, and then only August is a summer break. But I wanted my sister to come for summer, May and then June, so she had to miss school chunk of time. So my mom went to school to get the permission to take that many days off. And then her special education teacher said, "Oh, it's meaningless to go to the United States. Your daughter cannot do anything." Like seriously, that's what the teacher screamed at my mom. But guess what? Of course, she got on the airplane from Japan all the way to Chicago by herself, and then without speaking English. And then she did not know how to put on the headphones, or she did not know how to lock the door in the bathroom. But like somebody came to help her, I guess. So there were supports, if but like she enjoyed the freedom, like 12 hours of freedom in the airplane. Nobody told her anything. So I think, and then she proved herself that like she could fly from Japan all the way to Chicago, and then going to summer camp, everybody else was speaking English, and she didn't learn English, but she kind of like, I don't know, got along with everybody, and then went back to Japan like feeling more empowered. So I think like believing with or without disabilities, child can do, actually do something much better than what we adults expect. I think that was a lesson that I learned from my sister. Yes, I think. And I kind of talked a lot, and bear with me. I have 10 more minutes, no, 5 more minutes. I just want to give concrete steps to promote self-determination at home. But this is just the suggestions. Obviously, you can take some parts away and then maybe use it with any children at home from tomorrow. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually 6 steps. But step 1. So I don't know. So I looked for summer activities for my 7-year-old child, but we're not gonna do anything. I decided I'm not gonna send him to summer activities for now. But so I need something at home with him. But one thing we ask teachers and family members to do is to kind of brainstorm with your children or just by yourself, brainstorm goal buckets that you want your children to work on, or just brainstorm with your children. But these are 3 goal buckets are just the examples that we came up with that to do during this summer. Learning opportunities, anything like science, science, math, reading, social studies, anything. And health is to stay active, stay healthy, eating healthy, waking up, by 9 a.m. I don't know, but also this is the example of a health goal bucket. And chores can be washing dishes, cleaning, whatever. But creating these goal buckets kind of help parents to set perimeters or expectations. Because if you say like, oh, set your own goal, and then if they come up with like goals that's kind of hard for parents to support at home, then it's kind of disappointing for children. So just talk about what you can do as a family at home or in community where you can go during this pandemic. So I think having 2 to 3 goal buckets like these might help navigate, steer the conversations about goals, manageable goals. And talk to your child, and including siblings too, about the goal buckets. If as a family decides to pursue chore goal bucket, then the children can talk about which chore who's gonna do. I'm sure you already do this, but when they will do it, what kind of rewards they can get. This is kind of family activity. And maybe we can talk about a little bit more to make it more exciting to do chores. I don't know. And step 3 is that talk through setting a goal with your child. Setting a goal is actually very difficult. So when your child might come up with like great goal, great meaning that like manageable goal, meaning that like measurable, observable, specific goal. For example, I will do my chores every day in the middle of the day, and I would check the calendar after I do the chore, something like that. That's just too perfect. But like talking through goals so that child can see with the family members, and child can feel achieved or meaningful, I think it's important to talk through about the goal with your child and related to goal bucket so that it's within the family. Maybe you can make it a competition, or I don't know, something, make it interesting activity. And step 4 is to support your child to decide how they self-monitor their progress toward their goal. It can be calendar, as I have been saying, or app if they have a cell phone or iPad or device or whatever. There are just so many apps to follow the goals and setting goals and monitor the goal. I am using one app called Habit Ball, but I failed after 5 days, so that was not good goal. But it's okay. I can change my goal and then work on something different.
Mayumi, what
Yes.
was the name of the app you were using?
Habit Ball.
Habit Goal?
Ball. B-U-L-L. Yeah.
Habit Goal. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then step 5, check in with your child to see if they're making progress toward their goal. Sometimes if you don't plan ahead or how often you monitor progress, like it's just a busy life, like you kind of forget to check your child's progress. So like think about like how often you want to monitor, or just check in, like, oh, how is it going, what are you doing, how is the progress, like, are you happy with this progress, type of just quick conversation. You want to have that intentionally. Oh, it can be over dinner, over lunch, whatever, too, but be intentional to check in their children's your child's progress, and then whatever, if they achieve the goal, reach the goal, even if not, celebrate their progress toward their goal or what they're doing every day working towards the goal. And then if the goal didn't work out, then like, hey, what's next? Like, was the goal bad, or do you want to change? That kind of conversation can be followed. But what they have learned in the process of working toward goal is more meaningful than actually reaching a goal. I mean, both important, but like, I want to make sure that like people celebrate the process too. So very quickly, before I go to the parent panel, I worked with a young adult with autism a couple years ago. I was talking about self-determination with her, and she said, environment is prohibits me from being self-determined. And then I always felt I was a loser when I was at school at the IEP meeting, because I was not meeting the goals that the teacher set. And then so I said, no. So like during the process of the talking about self-determination, she learned that process is more important. But that was her mom's first time to hear that her daughter was feeling like a loser just because she was not meeting IEP goals. They didn't have this conversation when she was still at high school. So it was a kind of good conversation that I followed. But after that conversation about like, oh, even if I make small progress, I can be proud of my progress. And after that aha moment, like something lit in her head, she was very anxious, so she refused to go to driver's school to learn to get the driver's license. But after that moment, she decided to go get the driver's license, and she spent hours and hours driving, practice driving. And now she's driving from Lawrence to like different cities everywhere around here. So I didn't like really I did not know that celebrating the process is that big a deal for some people, especially with people with disabilities. So that's all I had to say. So next is parent panel. I did not decide who's gonna go first, but we have a lovely 3 parents tonight. What should we do, Stephanie? Who should we ask to go first?
I always go alphabetical order. So if that's the case, then I would say Nikki is up first. Nikki Heiman is up first.
Okay, well, hello everybody. And I'm Nikki Heiman, and I think perfect timing here. My son Trenton is going to join us. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Trenton is 16 and he has Down syndrome. And I also have 2 daughters. One is 13 and the other is 10. And Stephanie asked me to be a part of this. And so I've kind of been brainstorming some of the things that he has done since quarantine has occurred that I have thought has been really great about him moving past some barriers. So, if we're stuck at home, cooking is something that we do a lot of. And just last week, he was really wanting, what did you want? Can you tell him?
I'm gonna make pie.
Was Mom gonna make it for you?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Not me.
I can help you. But was I gonna do it for you?
Yes, so.
He's telling stories. Nope, he wanted a pie, and I said he could have a pie, but I was not cooking it for him. So we worked together, and you did it yourself. What kind was it?
Purple and gray.
It was blueberry.
Blueberry.
Yep, it was kind of a purple pie. So I think that was a great way that kind of he made a goal for himself, and with support, he was able to be successful in that. But I also think it's important to talk to kids about sometimes when you set a goal, you don't reach the goal, and that's okay because that's something that happens in everybody's life. So this wasn't since quarantine, but they have participated in 4-H for the last several years. And what are some of your projects
Me?
for 4-H? Yeah.
I'm a horse.
You don't have a horse.
I did that house.
What animal do you have?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm a dog, a cat.
He's tired of the sheep project, so he's avoiding my question. But he has sheep, and he also does foods project, and his favorite food is ketchup. And so one year we thought this would be a great project for him. We'll make homemade ketchup. We had a great garden that year, tons of tomato plants, and so he and I boiled and peeled tomatoes and pureed tomatoes and let them simmer.
Pizza.
And we made some pizza sauce then too, that's right. And neither of us knew how time intensive that project was. We didn't know that it was about a 12-hour project. And then it didn't taste like the ketchup that we bought. So we didn't like it. We kept the pizza sauce and threw the ketchup out. And we will never do that again. But that's okay, because he learned that sometimes you don't meet your goal and it's okay to move on. But one of the things that I was thinking about when you were talking about moving past barriers that I have been really, really actually proud of him. I was kind of torn whether or not he should be in trouble or if I should be proud.
I'm not in trouble, Mom.
No, you were not in trouble. So like most parents, since quarantine started, my kids have been eating nonstop. From the moment they wake up until the moment they go to bed, they are in the pantry, they are in the refrigerator, they are constantly snacking. And
bread.
And bread. He eats a lot of bread.
And big ketchup.
And big ketchup. He likes to have bread with ketchup. But I've been working from home since this whole thing started. And so I locked myself in the office and I'm not really a part of what the kids are doing. And I couldn't take it anymore, the constant eating. So I put a padlock on the pantry door one day and I thought this was going to solve my problem. It did not solve my problem. It solved the problem in the pantry.
My mom looked me Yuffie.
So what he did instead, though, was he got some French fries from the freezer and put them in the air fryer by himself. So he stayed out of the crackers and the bread that day, but I think his sisters maybe helped him figure out the temperature and the time on the air fryer. But I was actually really proud that he saw a problem. He did not come and interrupt my meeting. He decided he was going to do something about it, and he did. So I was really proud of that. Now we don't have any French fries, but it was good.
Fries, gosh, Mom.
Yes. So anyway, that's self-determination, little snippets. His future goals, as you can tell from earlier, he really wants to have a horse. That's his big life goal, is to own a horse.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to have before you can have a horse?
What's his name?
I don't know what his name is, but what do you have to do first?
You might him and feed, hay, and dogs and horse.
Yeah. You'll need to buy equipment and take care of it after you get it. But what do you need before you get a horse?
And names.
You gotta name it. But what do you need?
Name.
Horses cost a lot of money. So what do you need to do before you can get a horse?
Wallet.
Yeah, but how are you gonna put money in your wallet? You need a what? A job?
A shop.
So we're working on that. So, so unless anyone has any questions, those are just kind of some of what we do.
Yeah, I'm glad that like you just quickly summarize what I was talking about. So great. So it's who's next, Stephanie?
That would be Kathy Keck will be next.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Kathy Keck, and I don't know, I shared a picture with Stephanie, so I don't know if it's showing somewhere. I'm not home with my family right now, but I have 5 kids. My oldest son is 23, and I adopted him when he was 10 years old. He has cerebral palsy and seizures and pretty profound developmental disabilities. And next I have a young man that has been living with us since he was 16. He has Down syndrome and autism. And then I have what I affectionately say my normally developing children who are teenagers, 16 and 17. And then our youngest daughter who is 4 and a half. She'll be 5 soon, sooner than I want it to be. And she, as a result of being shaken when she was very small, has a trach and a G-tube and a traumatic brain injury. And she is medically fragile and requires 24-hour nursing care. So a few kids. And so I've been trying to think of different stories. So a lot of my stories might be a little different than the other 2 parents because of the functionality of my kids and because of their extreme medical needs, kind of complex medical. Sometimes things look a little different, but a lot of things I'm going to just kind of focus on are regarding medical. And so like for my son, Jacob, he, since he was, one of the things I always said when I adopted him is that I'm going to have the same expectations for him as I would any other child, as far as the things I try to get him to do, and also how I expect him to behave. And so when he was really little, we went on a trip with my brother and his family to Worlds of Fun. And at the time I was a new mom and pretty nervous, still learning him. And we went to Worlds of Fun, and my brother and his kids all went on these big roller coasters. And I was like, okay, I'm taking him to the kiddie park because we're not going on that big roller coaster. So we went and played on some other rides and came back, and my brother and his kids were getting off the ride, and my son looked at me and he goes, "Me? Please? Me?" And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't even know if it's safe to take him on a roller coaster. I don't know if it's going to start a seizure. I have no idea. So my brother's like, come on, let him do it. So we, I'm like, okay. So I give in, we go to the roller coaster and we're heading up the elevator. And I say to my older brother, I say, you know what, you're going to ride with him on this ride. And I'm sitting in the front of you because I cannot bear it if something happens and he has like a seizure on this ride. And so at that point, my brother stopped dead in his track and said, wait, you mean he could have a seizure on this ride? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He could have a seizure on this ride. So my brother's like, oh no, we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't do it. But that time, there's my son, me, please. And so we went on the roller coaster, and at the end of the ride, as soon as the roller coaster stopped, I heard more, please, more. And so it was kind of at that aha moment for me with him, and that he, deserves to have the same opportunity. Sometimes we have to weigh his health concerns a little bit more, but so from then on, he rides all the big roller coasters and does a lot of crazy things that sometimes I won't even do. But if he starts begging me, please, it's usually we try to do that. But with him medically, another thing, when he first moved in, we were in the process of adoption, and he didn't like therapy. So if you've had a kid that has to go through therapy and has lots of contractures and pain, it's not fun. And he sometimes would just throw fits about walking. And I remember just always talking to him like the same as my nieces, nephews, other people around me. And I just would say, you know what, do you want to walk into court on adoption, buddy? And he stopped and he looked at me and he's like, yep. And so every time he threw a fit during adoption, I'd always ask him the same thing. Do you want to do this? And then he would always say, yep. And he did walk into adoption day holding my hand, which was pretty awesome. But with him, his medical, like he recently, he has seizures, and he has multiple seizures a day. And we have been exploring a possibility of a neurosurgery for him that could potentially reduce, if not eliminate, some of the seizures he's having. Well, for 13 years, we've tried to do an EEG with him, and he is very sensory defensive. And so every time they would start an EEG, he would rip it off. And this past time, we were driving to Kansas City, and I just talked to him and said, you know, buddy, we're going to go get this test done where they put all those things on your head. And and we need this to know if it's a good idea for the doctor to do this surgery. And so Mom really needs you to help her out, buddy, if you want to, find out. And anyway, so for the first time in 13 years, he left those probes on long enough to get the procedure done. So now we have some more information. But I think with him, just really including him in medical decisions, because after all, it is, his life and how he's feeling, and he knows better than me, but to recognize that with him. And so then I'm going to switch to my littlest daughter. She has a trach. And so one of the things with her, a goal so with my kids, I say they're nonverbal, but I say it loosely. So they're nonverbal, but they're very expressive, and they very much let us know what they want and need. And one need of all kids, and my kids no different than anybody else's, is that need to belong and have friendship. And this became very evident to me one day when we were at a park with her physical therapist and her early ed teacher, myself, my husband, and we were swinging on swings. And she liked what we were doing. But what I noticed was every time she heard the little girls on the playground giggling and laughing, her whole face lit up. And it became very apparent to me that night, her need for friendship and her need to, be around other children. And so one of my learnings having kids with complex needs is sometimes I have to be that conduit to help people not be afraid of her, because kids especially can be afraid of her because she makes some weird noises and she's got all these adults around her and she's got medical equipment. And so, we really worked at, I just went up to that parent and was like, hey, this is my daughter. She's swinging. She's hearing your your kids. What do you think about, seeing if your kids would come play with her? And so they did, and they came and they swang with her. And I always explained to one of the things I've learned is not to be offended that people are scared, because I was scared. When I was learning how to take care of her, I was scared to death. And so just to understand and respect that sometimes her disabilities can be a little overwhelming for adults and especially little kids. So we just talked about, you know, she breathes through this tube here, and we talked a little bit about her, and then she got on the swing with her and she got in, and she just looked at her and she looked at her trach, and then all of a sudden, as sweet as a 4-year-old can be, she looked up at her mom and said, "Mommy, she's purring." And it was very sweet. So from that moment on, she wasn't scared of her. We still do play dates. We still get invited to birthday parties now. But I think sometimes to help our kids have some self-determination, we have to, even if they can't tell us verbally, be able to recognize what it is that's making them pretty happy, and then figuring out how to help remove barriers. And sometimes for kids who are more complex, it is being that conduit to help other people kind of learn about them. And then the last thing with her is, I think she really wants to walk. We were told she'd never walk, talk, see, hear. And she's working really hard on her therapy. And when she's in her gait trainer, she will get mad and she'll start like screaming face, and she's just not happy with mom. And I just always say to her, "Come on, girl, do you want to walk in a kindergarten?" And she'll get mad and she'll take 5 or 6 more steps. But I think sometimes it's also, you know, there's more than one way to get to the goal. So we have the walker, but we recently took a little bit of a risk because she does have a trach, and introduced her into a baby swimming pool. And so we thought, you know, this is another way to help her reach her therapy goals, because kicking in a pool of water is really great resistance for her legs and for her learning that motion of walking. So, but it was a little frightening because, you know, as a little one with a trach, it's, you know, we have to have a lot of great supports put in place to make sure that that doesn't go badly. So anyway, those are just some of my examples, having kiddos with more nonverbal, my least favorite word in the world, and more medical complexities. So I'm going to just be quiet and let this next mama go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Underwood, and my son John Paul just ran out to get a drink of water. He is back. You want to introduce yourself? Tell him your name and how old you are. Go ahead. Yes, that's fine. Just go ahead. And John Paul.
I'm John Paul, and I am 20 years old.
And what is your disability?
And my disability is autism.
And you have how many brothers?
And I have 2 brothers.
2 younger brothers, one who is going to be a senior in high school and one who is going to be a sophomore in high school. And so I've loved everything, hearing that what you all have talked about so far. I think you've given some really beautiful examples. And I kind of wanted to follow up on a couple themes, but just 3 things I wanted to point out. I wanted to talk about dignity of risk, following their dreams, and supporting their decisions. And so we kind of have we have the benefit now of, we've been on this path for 20 years. And so we've had to learn some things along the way and learn about, keeping our expectations high and not just letting other people's expectations set limitations for our children. But the one thing, so Nikki already kind of talked about it a little bit, about the dignity of risk. And I think if you've joined other of these discussions before, you've probably already heard of dignity of risk. But it's something really beautiful that I've learned from other adults who are self-advocates, adults who have disabilities, and they're advocating for themselves. And they say, we need to be allowed to fail. It's okay. Everybody fails. Just like Mayumi said, just like Nikki said, we all have to learn through both successes and failures. And if you're never given that opportunity to do that, then you miss out on a lot. So I think that's a really beautiful concept, that there is dignity in risk. And I think that kind of dovetails into the next thing I wanted to talk about, and that is really following their dreams. And so John Paul had a couple things that he loved to do in high school. One of them started in middle school. He really enjoyed theater. And so, he told us, I want to be in shows. We had gone to see a youth theater production, and he loved it. He just really enjoyed it. And he was excited by it. And he said, I want to do that. And so we said, well, let's find out what that would take. So we'll figure this out. And so John Paul ended up doing, I think we counted up 14 different shows with several different groups here in Kansas City. But it was an amazing experience for him. And he got to, he ended up even having a solo in one of his shows and having some lines and different cool things that were really great learning experiences for him and gave him so much more confidence. So following their dreams. And the other thing was, in high school, you nailed them. Yes, you did. The other thing, he came to us in high school and he said, I want to join the swim team. And we were like, oh, well, we don't really know anything about swim teams. We never did swim team. We don't know any families who do swim team. Well, actually, we did end up knowing families. We just didn't realize we did. And so we went to, what was your coach's name?
Coach Farrington.
Coach Farrington. So we ended up approaching the coach at his high school and saying, here's a situation. Our son would love to join your team. And, he may not be the fastest swimmer, and but he is really interested in doing it. And this coach was awesome. And he wanted to support John Paul exactly where he was. He said, he is so welcome to come and be with us. And it was a great experience for you, wasn't it? Yep. So then the third thing I wanted to talk about.
And I became a faster swimmer.
Yes, you did. And it was just a really very supportive environment too, like the team, getting to be part of a team, getting to, be at all those different meets. And so it was an awesome opportunity for him to get to do that. So just finding, I think sometimes we're too quick to shut down ideas because we as parents maybe don't know how to make something happen. And that's when we just really got to step out on faith and give it a try and see what happens. Just see. So that was something I thought was kind of a good tie into all this, was really following their dreams. Because, we're motivated by our dreams, just like Mayumi said. It's goals and dreams. I think sometimes dreams inspire the goals. So then that gives us the motivation to want to try something new, to want to take that risk, that dignity of risk. So, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about was supporting their decisions. And you all may have been to other talks where we've heard about supported decision-making and how that's really it's a new, I'm not coming up with the right word here, but it's kind of taking off across the country. It's becoming something that more and more states are realizing and recognizing as a very valid alternative to either alternative to guardianship or as a very important piece of guardianship, that really the person needs to be the decision maker in their own life, and the rest of us are here to support their decisions. So like my husband right now is looking for a new car, and he ended up calling a mechanic, and he called a friend who buys and sells a lot of cars. And he got their expertise to help him know what kind of car he should get. We all use supported decision making. And so, making that really part of their lives too, that they realize that they can draw upon a lot of different supporters to get the information they need, and that they can make the decision for themselves. That's a really important thing. So then as part of that, Mayumi said, really having them participate in their IEPs instead of just being a spectator. And so one thing John Paul did, so as for my professional role, I work for the UMKC Institute for Human Development. And one of our teams is the life course team, charting the life course. Sure, you can hold up. So John Paul, oh, a little higher so they could see it. Yeah, they got to be able to see it. So John Paul,
all the way up.
John Paul filled in a trajectory sheet. If you're familiar with life course tools, so we've done that a couple times where he filled in his trajectory sheet to explain to the IEP team what his vision is for his life. And, you know, that got us, the first time we did that, he'd been kind of struggling with some behavioral things at school, and things really were not going very well right then. And, you know, I said, I think we need a team meeting, and I think we need to do a trajectory so you can tell them what it is you really want. And it was amazing how that changed the dynamic of that, the meeting for one, and the team for two. You know, just having them, their eyes just open up to realize he has an idea for what he wants. And if we can all get on board with that, then everything goes better and smoother, and everybody's happier, and behavior improved dramatically. Teacher, you know, his relationships with his teachers was so improved. So anyway, that was just another thing I wanted to pull up and put into this conversation. That's it.
Oh, thank you so much, Nikki, Kathy, Danielle. They're beautiful stories. I mean, like, I'm going to cry, but like I cried the last time. So, you know, I decided I'm not going to cry this time. But so, you know, Michelle Reynolds, she's also sibling. That's why she developed this life course. She could see the need for this type of project because of sibling experience. So yeah, hey, go siblings. So yeah, but like you guys are wonderful parents, so I'm sure, you know, every
Oh,
type
yeah, go
in your
siblings.
house. Yeah. What?
Go siblings.
Yeah, go siblings. Yes.
Siblings
So
are great.
yes, I want everybody to invite siblings
Wait.
to IP meetings too, if you can. I don't know. That's again family preference, but just another input, because I was a special education teacher, right? And I'm sitting in an IEP meeting, and then like 10 people are from school, and the only one mom, you know, comes from family, and that's just very imbalanced power dynamic. I don't like that, you know. But if you bring uncle and aunt, grandma, grandpa, siblings, whoever are interested in, I think schools should be flexible to set up a meeting time, but you know, to have like half and half, family and then professionals, because this is this child's life. It's professionals just see that just segment of life, but like families think about life course perspective, like the church, you know. So we need more family members sitting in a IEP meeting or transition planning meeting. That's what I think. But
Mayumi, we have a comment from Facebook I just want to share. Raheel said, I love what you said, not to shut down what they want and to go for it. And I think that really is exactly what all parents need to hear and need to understand. And that's how we support them. Don't shut them down. Just find ways to help them and let them go for it. And have that dignity of risk, as Danielle mentioned. So, and all of the moms here are great at helping and supporting that option for them. Isn't that right, John Paul? Does anybody have any questions for our parent panel? And we are a little delayed on Facebook, so if any questions come through, I will bring them up.
yes, yeah, these are beautiful experiences and beautiful stories. I'm inspired today, so thank you very much for sharing your stories.
Does anybody on Zoom have any questions? We did get a comment that said, inspiring stories, thanks for sharing them with us.
Yeah, so one thing Danielle said about, other people's expectations, right? Like K through 12, teachers' expectations, administrators' expectations, and after high school, like employers' expectations. Like we always have expectations. But I think people with disabilities, for people with disabilities, other people's expectations are more influential, can be positive, can be negative. When my sister came to the United States, she loves the United States. You know why? Because she does not perceived as a person with disabilities. She's just perceived as another Asian lady who does not speak English. So she just like, her demeanor is just like bigger than anything. Like when she's in Japan, people can like quickly tell that she has disabilities. So she doesn't look as confident. But in the US, people just talk to her, look at her, and then try to be helpful because people think like she just does not speak English very well. So, like expectations, I learned that like how scary it can be. But as every single parent just shared, positive high expectations can bring good outcomes, and then that will be the biggest supports, biggest opportunities for any child can have, I think. We tell any kid that like you can be astronaut anytime. Like people with the disabilities can be astronaut if they want to. Like I think it's just the expectations, negative expectations can limit their goals that they want to try to work through. But yeah, thank you very much for your stories. I just want to share self-determination inventory. So we have 21 items. These items are written at the 3rd grade level, but basically asking questions how the person feels about, their ability to be self-determined, making choices, setting and going after goals, and make decisions. But once again, this is just a snapshot of how they feel on that day that they take. So hello, you are back. But this is an opportunity to learn about themselves. We have a parent-teacher version. These are the same 21 items, but written in my child or my student knows their strengths very well or something like that. But I have this parent whose adult child was 34 years old. This young adult, has a Down syndrome. And when I was helping this young adult take this self-determination inventory, mom was the other side, thought, her daughter could not answer any of the questions. And then come to find out, she was really carefully reading, and she really carefully answering each question. And Tala mom was just so surprised that like she could read, understand, and then respond to questions. And then after that, mom said to me, we are in the process of looking for independent living for my daughter, but you know what? I will try to trust her judgment. She was choosing one place which I didn't like, but because I saw like she could really think through making decisions, I will give her a try. So that's how the story started. I was like, well, I wasn't sure if this is that big of influence, but like it's great if you give your daughter a chance to decide where she wants to live. So that was great. But you can either take this screenshot or go to selfdetermination.org, and then you can access to student version and then parents version. If your children are over 18 years old, there is an adult version. But basically, student version, adult version, parent version, they're all same 21 items. It's just demographics items are different. So we ask college students without disabilities take this inventory as well, just to see how their self-determination status is. And Stephanie, of course, as always, has a great ideas. So when we're planning for this presentation, she said, Mayumi, it'd be nice if there are picture books about self-determination. And then, so this is gonna be, don't steal this idea, because Stephanie and I will earn money from selling self-determination picture book. But for now, we don't have picture books written and created by Stephanie Coleman and Mayumi Hagiwara yet. So, but I picked these books out of my child's bookshelf. Just Ask by Sonia Sotomayor. This is great, talking about being different, being brave, being you is great. And a lot of children with some kind of disabilities are in pictures. So I think you can kind of connect with your children. And then these are, what do you do with an idea? This is like a series of 3 picture books. Even if you're adults, and I think you can still learn something, the core message from picture books. These might be a great start, but of course there are hundreds other picture books or any other just the regular books, have a message about being yourself, setting a goals, making decisions, advocating for yourself. Just link that when you're reading with your child, or when your child is reading some books. I think learning from books might be another effective way for children to connect with the self-determination ideas. No, okay. So I think that's all. If we have questions, yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? I know there was one question on Zoom chat asking if anyone has accessed self-determination funding, and if so, how that can be used to young adults and 18+ years old. I will tell everyone that I actually just learned of this funding in Kansas. It's a very rare funding, and it's separate from what we're talking about here. However, one of our moms, Kathy, has self-determination funding and has had it in the past, and she might be able to take a moment to share about what that funding is.
Sure. So self-determination, not necessarily what we're talking about today, but there's a program in our state, and it's done at TARC through Topeka, but it helps adults. I guess it could be used for children too, but mostly what it does is it allows some flexibility with your funding. So if you, like for my son, we do self-determination day service. So what that means is I can do multiple things. So we can explore traditional day service programs, and if he wants to attend a day or two, one of those programs he can. Or what we do mostly is his day service consists of things he likes to do. It doesn't have to be between 9 and 5. So he likes to go to Royals games. He likes to go to zoos. He likes to travel. And so his day service programming can be doing any of those things at any hour of the day. And so it's not from 9 to 5. A lot of times, like I say, we go in the evenings or weekends. And so his 20, 25 hours a week of day service programming can be really based on what he wants to do. And so it does allow some flexibility with funding. And then we can, with that, we're able to determine, sometimes we can pay a little higher rate to direct support professionals to help with those. So anyway, it is an awesome program, and it's very small and not very well known in our state. But if I were to advocate, I would definitely say it was one we should learn more about and support, because I think it is awesome. So, and then I was going to tell you about your picture book. There's also a book called How He Helps Himself. That is a really awesome picture book that Jacob and I used to read over and over. And it's about a young man that's in a wheelchair and how he helps himself and things he does to help himself. So you could add that to your picture book list of things to look into.
Kathy, a question came in about how much higher of a rate, because we all know as parents, if they're receiving any kind of waiver system and support through that, it's not a very high rate that we are able to offer.
So it's the same rate that if you're a day service provider, let's say, you would get that rate. But if you're a day service provider, you have lots of staff you're hiring. And so if you're a parent and you're self-directing your self-determination services, I don't have overhead and I don't have other things I have to pay for. And so what you do is, it's the same amount of money, but it's how you can allocate the funds. And that's how you end up paying your attendants more. It's kind of complicated, and I'm probably butchering the aspects of it. But it does allow some flexibility. So it's the same. So if you're a tier 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, whatever the day service rate is, that's the money. Your child doesn't receive it directly. It goes through the agency, and then you can help determine, you make a budget basically and determine how many hours are you going to spend doing what. And then from that, you can kind of, make some determination about, if I have to have 25 hours a week and I'm going to pay staff 1, and, if I have 2 staff, I might pay them both comparable to what a DSP might make in a day service. But if I only have 1 staff, I might be able to pay that staff more. So it kind of just depends. But I gave some information to Stephanie, and so I think to get some more information globally out about that. I don't know if they're interested in expanding the program, and I honestly don't know if the state's interested in expanding that program either. So it is, for a while it was shut down, and for a while there was a waiting list. So anyway.
Yeah, and it's going to be probably a little harder right now with the state budget that's going to be coming. I know rates are supposed to increase for HCBS providers here in July, but we're not even confident on that right now. A question came in through, a question real quick on this one is, does it matter if you are or are not your child's guardian, Kathy?
So it's kind of the same as all of the other criteria. If you are the guardian, you have to go through court to mitigate conflict of interest, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. You just have to have that conflict of interest mitigated.
And then a question on Facebook was the name of that book that you mentioned, Howie or something?
Yeah, Howie, and it's HOWIE, helps himself.
Howie helps himself. Great. Thank you, Kathy.
Sure. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? We have a couple of moments left.
Yeah, or Nikki, Danielle, Kathy, anything else that you missed out or you want to highlight before we go?
Now, the only thing I might want to add is just that I definitely think it does matter if you are building in small opportunities to learn self-determination from the time they're very small. That makes such a difference when they get to be a young adult age. And we're still working on, I mean, whatever the level is that it's going to be individual to the person. But, you know, it can be as simple as laying out, you know, when they're trying to learn about wearing appropriate clothing for the weather, for example, you know, laying out choices rather than choosing the actual clothing they're going to wear that day, you know, when they're young, or if they still are needing to work on that. We're still working on that. You know, John Paul will sometimes wear summer clothes in the winter and winter clothes in the summer. So we have to, you know, continue working on, yeah. But, you know, it's just, life is all about learning. And I think it's just, it's good to just build it in as we go.
I absolutely agree. And you talk about, you know, right from the beginning, it's self-determination, it's supported decision-making, right from when they're little, whether they're choosing their clothes, choosing the movie that they want to watch, or their movie or their book that they want to read, constantly giving them little opportunities to make their own choices and become confident in making those choices, become confident in their abilities when they do have that opportunity to fail. That just gives them more, you know, yes, all of us, when we fail, we're like, oh, down in the dumps, but we turn around and go back out. And that gives us the next time we succeed, and that boosts our confidence. And just like us, it does that for our children too. And we have to keep remembering that and keep offering those opportunities. Anybody else? Well, I want to thank our presenter, Mayumi, for being with us tonight and sharing that information. And all of our speakers, Nikki, Kathy, Danielle, John Paul, Trenton. I don't want to forget Trenton. Trenton came in and helped us too. So we appreciate all of you for spending some time with us this evening and sharing your stories.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And please take a moment to fill out the survey. It was in the emails that were shared with you. It's also been in some of the comments. And tell us how we're doing. We want to know how we're doing. We also want to know what you want to hear too. So all of that information comes together to provide better sessions for you all in the future. Thanks all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.